For 5 years, I made a payment on the first of every month. $750. Every single month without fail. I ate canned beans. I drove a car with a glowing check engine light. I passed up a dream job because I couldn't afford to move, all to honor my dead husband's memory. Until a phone call told me the debt I'd been paying for 5 years didn't exist. Someone had been lying to me. Someone close. And when I finally figured out who, the calculated cruelty of it broke something open inside me. I'm Hazel. I'm 33. 5 years ago, I buried my husband Jake. He was 30 when he died in a car accident on a rainy November night. Single car crash on a bad curve. Jake was a fleet mechanic who could diagnose a diesel engine just by listening to it. We met when he brought his neighbor's sick cat into the animal clinic where I worked. He didn't even own the cat. That was Jake. We got married when I was 23. Small house on the east side of Tucson. We weren't rich. We weren't poor. We had each other. Then he was gone. The weeks after the funeral are still a blur. I slept in his flannel shirts because they smelled like motor oil and Irish Spring. My best friend Quinn literally had to put food in front of me or I wouldn't eat. 3 weeks after the funeral, my mother-in-law showed up at my door. Sharon Rhodes. 63 years old, retired administrative assistant, and a woman who could make you feel guilty for breathing the wrong way. She'd always been polite to me, never warm. That afternoon, she sat on my couch with a manila envelope and red-rimmed eyes. She told me Jake had taken out a personal loan 18 months before he died. $54,000 through Regional Trust Financial Group. For seed money for his sister Cassie's candle business. The remaining balance was $45,000. Monthly payment, $750. She slid the envelope across my coffee table. Inside were printed statements. Professional looking. Official enough. She cried and said if this debt went to collections, it could trigger a lien on our house. His good name was at stake. Here's the part where you might think I was foolish. I wasn't. I was broken. There's a difference. When you're 3 weeks out from burying your husband, you don't cross-examine his mother. You trust family because family is all you think you have left. Sharon set up the whole system for me. Account number, routing number, exact amount. You just send the payment each month, sweetheart. I'll handle the rest. She made it easy. That was the trap. Let me tell you what that cost me. My emergency fund went to zero within the first year. I drove a 2011 Kia with 187,000 miles and a check engine light that had been glowing for 2 straight years. I skipped dental work. 2 fillings and a crown my dentist said was urgent. There was a job opening at a veterinary clinic in Flagstaff. Better pay, better hours, mountains instead of strip malls. Moving costs were around $4,000. I didn't have $4,000. I didn't have $700 that wasn't already committed. I ate rice and canned beans 3 nights a week for 5 years. Through all of this, Cassie never once offered to help pay back the loan for her candle business. Instead, she borrowed from me. $80 here, $150 there. Somewhere around $2,000 over the years. The candle business? Cassie made exactly 11 candles. She sold 2, both to Sharon. Sharon gave me one for Christmas. A candle purchased with my money, given back to me as a gift. Now let me take you to the moment that changed everything. It's a Tuesday in April. I'm in my car eating a granola bar for lunch because payday isn't until Friday. My phone rings. Desert Hills Credit Union. I'd applied for a mortgage pre-approval just to see if I even qualified. Mark Davis, a loan officer, tells me they ran a credit audit. There's a discrepancy with that $750 monthly obligation. He searched every database available. There is no loan. No debt of any kind in Jake Rhodes's name. The account number I've been sending money to doesn't belong to any lending institution. It's a regular checking account registered to a limited liability company called Pinnacle Assets LLC. $45,000. 60 payments. 5 years of canned beans and a dying car and no Flagstaff. And there was never any debt. I sat in that parking lot staring at the clock. 61 payments. Into a void. That night, I pulled out the manila envelope Sharon had given me. Every quarterly statement she'd sent. 20 of them. I spread them across the table and looked at those documents with clear, focused, angry eyes. No phone number. No website. No FDIC logo. No state lending license number. The return address was a P.O. box in Phoenix. The account number was 8 digits long. Real loan account numbers are typically 10 to 16 digits. 8 digits is a personal checking account. No interest rate. No APR disclosure. No truth in lending statement, which is legally required. And every single one used the exact same font, exact same layout. Made from a template. Any financial professional would have caught this in 30 seconds. But I was a veterinary technician who trusted her mother-in-law. That same week, Sharon called about Jake's 5-year memorial. She wanted to commission a bench at a park. $2,800 total. She wanted me to pay half. The old Hazel would have written that check immediately. The new Hazel said, "Let me think about it." There was a long pause. Sharon wasn't used to hearing me say no. Then there was Cassie. The same week, Cassie texted asking to borrow my credit card number for a hotel in Sedona. Wellness retreat. Instead of responding, I opened Instagram and looked at her profile. Dinner at the Gladly in Scottsdale. $34 entrees. Fresh highlights every 6 weeks. A Peloton bike. A new leather bag. For someone constantly broke, Cassie was living suspiciously well. I did the math. If the money was split between her and Sharon, Cassie had received $22,500 over 5 years. Plus the $2,000 she borrowed directly. She had a secret income. Me. I told Quinn the next morning. Quinn is the kind of friend who will tell you your haircut looks terrible before anyone else has the decency. She's the one who brought me food when I couldn't feed myself. I told her everything. She went quiet. "Hazel, you've been paying rent on a ghost." Then, I could make 0 candles and still have $45,000, which is already a better return than anything Cassie has ever done. Quinn's brother-in-law had dealt with identity theft. The forensic accountant who helped him was a guy named Harold Brennan. Call him. But first, I went to the closet I hadn't opened since Jake died. His files. I pulled out everything. Bank statements. Tax returns. Pay stubs. Insurance paperwork. I went through every single page. Nowhere was there any mention of Regional Trust Financial Group. No $54,000 loan. The loan never existed. I sat on the floor surrounded by Jake's real life on paper. And I felt something crack inside my chest. I had spent 5 years honoring a lie. 5 years trusting the people who sat across from me at holidays, looked me in the eye, and cashed my checks. That night, my phone buzzed. A text from Cassie. "Mom, she's not going to keep paying forever. We need to talk about winding this." Then it vanished. Deleted. 3 seconds later, a new text. "Oops. Wrong person. LOL. Meant to text my friend about a subscription thing. Haha." I opened my notification history. The preview was still there. I screenshotted it. Then I replied with a smiley face emoji. The next morning I called Harold Brennan. Harold worked out of a cramped office on South 6th Avenue. 71 years old, reading glasses on a beaded chain. I laid it all out. The manila envelope. The statements. Mark Davis's call. The $45,000. Pinnacle Assets LLC. Cassie's deleted text. When I finished, he looked at me the way a doctor looks at an X-ray when the diagnosis is obvious. This is textbook. Someone set up a shell company, created fake loan documents, routed your payments into their own account, and counted on your grief to keep you from asking questions. He pulled up the Arizona Corporation Commission website. Public records. Took him less than 5 minutes. Pinnacle Assets LLC was registered 5 years ago, 3 weeks after Jake's funeral. The member name. Cassandra Rhodes. Secondary Managing Member S. Rhodes. Sharon. Mother and daughter. Partners. 5 years. $45,000. Then Harold asked, "Did your husband have life insurance through his employer?" "Yes. $15,000. I never received the payout." Harold called Canyon Automotive Services HR. The $15,000 death benefit had been claimed and paid out 4 weeks after Jake's death. The check was mailed to a P.O. box in Phoenix. The same P.O. box. Jake had filled out the beneficiary form at 24, before he met me. It listed next of kin. He never updated it. Sharon submitted the paperwork while I was still trying to remember to eat breakfast. $45,000 in fake debt payments. $15,000 in stolen life insurance. $60,000 total. Harold laid out my options. Criminal, wire fraud and theft by deception. Both felonies. Civil, a lawsuit for full restitution plus consequential damages. His recommendation? Both. Simultaneously. Then he told me the hard part. You cannot tip them off. If you stop the payments, they'll know something's wrong. You need to keep paying. Keep smiling until the warrants are signed. How long? Maybe 6 weeks total. Can you hold it together? I said yes. When I got home, I opened my banking app. First of the month. Payment number 61. I transferred $750 to Pinnacle Assets LLC. But this time, I screenshotted everything. Printed it. Placed it in a folder. On the tab, Case File Rhodes. For 3 weeks, I lived 2 lives. The first was what everyone saw. Hazel Rhodes, veterinary technician, quiet widow. The second life happened in Harold's office and at my kitchen table after the curtains were drawn. Harold obtained full transaction records for Pinnacle Assets LLC. Over 5 years, it had received exactly 61 deposits. All from me. 750 each. No other deposits. Nothing. Pinnacle Assets LLC existed for one purpose, to collect my money. Meanwhile, I played my part. I went to Sunday brunch with Sharon. She talked about the memorial bench. I agreed to pay the $1,400. What she didn't know was that the next day I called Green Valley Parks and Recreation. No request. No application. No bench. I also started recording my phone calls with Sharon. Arizona is a one-party consent state. During one call, the loan people told me everything's on track. Maybe another 14, 15 months and it should be fully paid off. Jake would be so grateful. Hazel. All recorded. All lies. All admissible. Then Cassie called. She wanted me to co-sign a lease for a new apartment in Scottsdale. $1,850 a month. Cassie was asking me, the woman she'd been stealing from for 5 years, to put my name on her lease so she could live in a nicer apartment funded by money she stole from me. I told her I'd need to check with my bank. Then came the most important meeting. Harold introduced me to Detective Michelle Torres from the Pima County Attorney's Office Fraud Division. Harold presented the evidence. The LLC filings. The fake statements. The bank records. The insurance claim. Cassie's screenshot. The recorded calls. Detective Torres asked clear, specific questions. When I finished, she looked at me. Mrs. Rhodes, you have a very strong case. I'd like to move forward. Then she asked me to do 2 more monthly payments. Fresh transactions for when the warrant was executed. I agreed. During those 2 months, the hardest moment came at brunch. Sharon set down her fork and looked at me. You seem different lately, Hazel. Quieter. Is everything all right? I told her work was stressful. The clinic might be cutting hours. She studied me for 3 seconds. Then nodded. Well, at least the loan will be done soon. I smiled. Exactly. I sat across from this woman knowing she had stolen $60,000 from me, and I told her the hollandaise was wonderful. That evening, Detective Torres called. The warrants were signed. Both would be served Thursday morning at 9:15. Thursday came. I was at the clinic by 7:30 because I couldn't sit in my house anymore. At 9:22, my phone lit up. Detective Torres's direct line. I walked into the supply closet. It's done. Both in custody. At 9:15 that morning, 2 deputies had arrived at Sharon's house. She answered in a cardigan and slippers, holding a coffee mug. The deputies presented the warrant. Read the charges. Sharon set the mug down. Her hand shook so badly coffee sloshed onto the wood. I'd like to call my attorney. You can call from the station. Then they cuffed her. At the same moment, a Tempe unit arrived at Cassie's apartment. Cassie saw the badges and tried to push the door shut. The officer stopped it with one hand. Cassie grabbed her phone. Dialed Sharon. Voicemail. Tried again. Voicemail. Because 40 miles south, Sharon was in a cruiser. Cassie started to cry. I stood in the supply closet and pressed my back against the wall and breathed. What I felt was pressure leaving my body. 5 years of it. Quinn found me 2 minutes later. She walked me outside, sat me on the curb, handed me water. We sat in the April sun. She didn't say a word. Over the next 48 hours, they executed the search warrants. Cassie's laptop had the login credentials for Pinnacle Assets LLC's bank account. They found the Microsoft Word file, a template to create every fake statement. Sharon's house yielded something that disturbed me more than anything else. A notebook. Small spiral bound with a green cover. Inside, in Sharon's neat cursive, was a ledger. Every single payment I'd ever made. All 63. Recorded by date, amount, and split. 750. 375S. 375C. She kept a notebook. Like she was running a book club treasury, not a criminal enterprise. One more thing came out of that search. 1 pair of opal earrings. 1 silver bracelet with a toggle clasp. My grandmother's. They disappeared in the weeks after Jake's funeral when Sharon was helping. They were never lost. They were stolen. That evening, Cassie called from Tempe City Jail. I let it go to voicemail. I deleted it. That night, I did something I hadn't done in 5 years. I drove to the grocery store and bought a real steak. Ribeye, thick cut, $12. Fresh asparagus. A bottle of wine that cost $14. I didn't flinch. I cooked in the kitchen where I used to cry into bowls of rice. I poured a full glass of wine. I sat down and ate slowly. Like a woman who had nowhere else to be and nothing else to owe. The case moved through Pima County Superior Court over 3 months. Neither Sharon nor Cassie wanted a trial. Their attorneys advised them a jury would not be kind. Sharon pleaded guilty to wire fraud, theft by deception, and insurance fraud. 3 years in Arizona State Prison. 2 years supervised probation. Full restitution. The judge noted the calculated exploitation of a grieving family member as an aggravating factor. Sharon stood in an orange jumpsuit with cuffed wrists and said absolutely nothing. Cassie pleaded guilty to wire fraud and conspiracy. Her public defender argued she was under her mother's influence. The judge sentenced her to 2 years plus restitution. Full criminal restitution was ordered. $61,350 total. But Harold wasn't finished. He helped me file a civil lawsuit for consequential damages. The dental work. The salary differential from the Flagstaff job. The deferred car maintenance. The civil case settled 4 months later. The settlement totaled $38,000. Combined with criminal restitution, I recovered just over $99,000. Here's what changed. The $750 stopped leaving my account. I got my teeth fixed. $3,400. I took the Kia to a real mechanic. The check engine light. An oxygen sensor. $340. I started putting $750 into savings on the 1st of every month. Same amount, same date. But now it goes to me. In 6 months, I saved $4,500. I'd never had that much in savings before. The Flagstaff job had a new posting. I applied. I interviewed. I got it. This time, I could afford to go. I bought a car. A used 2021 Subaru Crosstrek. Midnight blue, 41,000 miles. I paid cash. The salesman asked if I wanted to finance. I'm paying cash. I signed the paperwork and drove it off the lot with the windows down. On my last night in Tucson, I took Quinn to dinner. A real dinner. We split a dessert with the word molten in it. Quinn raised her glass. To the most expensive candle business in Arizona history. I laughed so hard I almost knocked over the water. We talked about Flagstaff and whether I should get a dog. Like two women who'd been through something hard and come out the other side. I hugged Quinn in the parking lot for a long time. You call me every week. I will. Some debts are real. The kind you owe to people who held you up when you couldn't stand. The next morning, I loaded the Crosstrek and drove north on I-17 toward Flagstaff. The car was quiet and smooth. No check engine light. I passed the exit for Green Valley. I'd taken it dozens of times over 5 years for brunches and guilt trips and $1,400 checks for benches that were never ordered. I didn't take the exit. I didn't slow down. I didn't look. I kept driving north toward the mountains, toward the life that 5 years of canned beans and a glowing check engine light had tried to keep me from reaching. Some debts are real, and some are invented by people who were supposed to love you. The trick is learning which is which before it costs you everything. Thanks for listening, and if you liked this story, share it with others, and don't forget to comment and subscribe for more stories about resilience, justice, and fighting back when the people closest to you betray your trust. The grief that doesn't speak whispers the o'er-fraught heart and bids it break, but the truth that finally speaks sets you free.